Andy, thanks a lot. And this Fortune conference is a global one, so great to get some perspective now from a company with 29,000 locations around the world. Starbucks, obviously a very global name. The president and CEO, Kevin Johnson, joining us here. Kevin, thanks very much for your time. You've had a really interesting career, obviously leading Starbucks today, but working in technology, Microsoft and Juniper. How did that tech background really influence where you are today and how you're leading Starbucks now?
Well, John, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, as you pointed out, Starbucks was founded 47 years ago, and today we're now at 29,000 stores, 78 countries around the world. We're serving 100 million customers a week, and we have over 330,000 Starbucks partners. We call every employee a partner who proudly wear the green apron. And so if you think about what's happening in retail today, modern retailers must all embrace creating a great experience in their stores and then extending their stores to a digital mobile connection. And so, you know, much of our journey at Starbucks has been about building that mobile app for mobile ordering, for payment, for the loyalty program. And that's becoming a very, very powerful part of the Starbucks experience, and it's complementary to what we do in our stores.
I'm always amazed by the numbers when you guys report your results on the number of mobile transactions, largely those numbers tied to the U.S., but just in North America, whether it's the U.S. or Canada. Can you give us a sense on how quickly the rate of change is happening with how many people are using mobile devices to order their Starbucks drinks or their meals?
Well, I'll give you two data points. In North America, roughly 40% of all of our sales in our stores are part of our loyalty program. The vast majority of that is paid for on the mobile app. In China, over 60% of the tender is paid for digitally with our relationships with Alibaba and Alipay and WeChat Pay.
Those are some big numbers,
yeah.
and since you mentioned China, it's actually been a big theme here at the conference. It's pretty much the signature of the growth story of Starbucks going forward. Give us a sense on how aggressively you're opening up stores. And I mean, you're opening up in dozens of different cities right now.
Yeah, you know, we've been in China now for 20 years. And we're now at just over 3,400 stores in China. We're in about 134 cities in China today, and we're opening 600 new stores a year. And that means on average we're opening a new Starbucks store in China every 15 hours. And so China is and will continue to be an opportunity for us to continue to grow and expand for decades.
This expansion happening at a time when we hear a lot in the political world about China, the trade tensions between the U.S. and China. Prime Minister Trudeau talking about China this week and the opportunities that lie there. Any thoughts on Canada's approach to trade relationships with China, just as the CEO of a company that's looking to continue to grow in that market?
Well, I can only kind of share, you know, a Starbucks perspective, and you know, operating in 78 countries around the world, you know, certainly we're not immune to geopolitical events that unfold. But one thing that we try and do in every one of those countries is, as we build our stores and our partners, we're part of those communities. So in China, for example, you know, we build in China for China. So we have our team in China. They design the stores. They hire local contractors. We hire, you know, our baristas, young Chinese, you know, students graduating from college and looking for, you know, an opportunity. And by doing that, you know, it allows us to operate even when there's some geopolitical situations unfolding. Now, we're not immune to that, but I think we've created a solid relationship in every community that we do business, and that helps us.
So you use that word community. It's hard to find a street corner that doesn't have a Starbucks, it feels like, in North America. So it's very much part of the daily lives of a lot of consumers today. And the economy of Canada, the economy of the U.S. have been pretty strong recently. Mm-hmm. There is this issue around things like wage growth, not a lot of wage growth, and what you have to spend, go out and spend on a daily basis. Some people, you know, sometimes even personal finance experts say, well, if you can cut out that Starbucks coffee, maybe you save a few bucks. Are you guys aware of, is that sort of something you're thinking about consciously when it comes to how you're thinking about the consumer, the people who are buying your products, et cetera?
Well, we've really focused at Starbucks on creating a warm, welcoming environment in our stores that we think of as the third place. It's not your home, it's not your work, it's a place that you can gather and be part of a community, and a place where the barista, gets to know your name and your favorite beverages and your family. And we work to create a premium experience with premium Arabica coffee, and that formula works well around the world, and because it's grounded in something that's important to each one of us, which is human connection, and a place where we feel welcome, and a place where we can get a custom handcrafted beverage made just for you. And by doing that, it allows us to create a premium experience for every customer that we serve.
So when it comes to what's in those stores and thinking about the consumer, sometimes there's new things on the menu, could be egg bites. Even there was some experimentation with things like wine. You're in Canada the week of the legalization of cannabis. There are some players in the coffee industry here, for example, Second Cup, which has thought about transitioning some of its stores into cannabis locations. Have you guys thought at all about that changing landscape, whether that actually changes anything for you guys?
I'm aware of that, but that's not anything we're considering or pursuing. I just don't feel it's accretive to our brand and kind of what our brand stands for. But I respect the fact that and we'll monitor and watch what happens in the industry, as we always do. But we really are focused on how can we create great custom handcrafted beverages at scale around our coffee and our tea platforms. And as you pointed out, we've expanded into food. I know egg bites are one of your favorites.
Oh,
and so
don't get me started, Kevin. Yeah. And just for the baristas as well, is that something you have to think with cannabis becoming legal here in Canada? Do you have to think, like some companies have said, well, if you're going to be doing something in your spare time, there has to be a period of time between when you're, consuming wine or alcohol or, say, cannabis before you come to work. Has it sort of really trickled into the employment workplace?
None of that's been an issue. Our Starbucks partners, they use good judgment, and we hire the kind of people that care about making a great connection with their customers. They care about creating that elevated Starbucks experience. And we've got wonderful Starbucks partners.
Talk about the stock story of Starbucks. Recently, the company got some attention on Wall Street because a well-known activist investor, Bill Ackman, expressed interest in Starbucks. Give us a sense on where you think you are in this path of your continued growth, what your reaction to a high-profile activist investor such as Ackman basically giving a vote of confidence in Starbucks was meant to you.
Well, if you look at the strategic priorities that we've outlined, we're very clear on those priorities. Number one is accelerating our growth in our targeted long-term markets of the U.S. and China. Second is how we're leveraging the Global Coffee Alliance that we just established with Nestle to take our CPG and food service business globally. And the third is sharpening our focus on shareholder value returns. And I've had the opportunity to meet with 60 or more of our largest shareholders over the last 90 days, and we're very clear on the strategic priorities, the initiatives behind those. And certainly, as we drive those, the expectation is that, the value of the stock today is undervalued. And if we execute on those, we're going to create significant shareholder value.
Well, it's a reminder of the importance of leadership, which is a subject I saw you were talking about overnight on Twitter. We mentioned that you spent a big chunk of your career at Microsoft, the co-founder, Paul Allen, passing away. Give us a sense, just in terms of what he meant as a leader, certainly in markets like Seattle, but also with helping to establish a company that really, on many levels, put Seattle on the map.
Well, certainly he and Bill were the co-founders of Microsoft, and Paul played a very key role along with Bill in the early days of the company. And as Paul transitioned from the company, he had a significant positive impact on the community of Seattle. And I think that's what he will be remembered for most, is the fact that with the success and the wealth he generated, he really worked on philanthropy and he worked on the community in Seattle, and he will be missed.
Well, it's good to get your perspective, Kevin. Thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Kevin Johnson, the President and CEO of Starbucks, joining us here from the Fortune Global Conference in downtown Toronto. Andy, I'll send it back to you in the studio.